Good evening. You're listening to the Extreme Movie Show. I'm your host, Rob, broadcasting from some studio on a dark and stormy night. I'm making a woman. I've got RDV in the Midwest online there to help me out with it because tonight we're talking about The Bride of Frankenstein. So in no way am I broadcasting from the Pineless Palace just west of Orlando, Florida, in the Extreme Studios. It's somewhere else in this Halloween season. And RDV, we're talking about a movie here, Bride of Frankenstein, very popular. It's one of the ones that our fans on the Extreme Movie Show channel voted on. So I want to say thank for everybody for voting. This is obviously the first sequel to the 1931 Universal classic monster movie, Frankenstein, which has some dark moments in there. A lot of people think this movie is a great sequel. It's got a lot of pluses for it. I think it's got a few minuses that we're going to dive into that here in a little bit. But I've seen it a gazillion times. I've seen all of them and all that. I know a lot of the monster movies were a first watch for you. Was this a first watch for you as well?
Yeah, this actually was a first watch for me, and honestly, you bring up a good point. A lot of people say this is a very great sequel to the first one. I guess this is meant to be part of a trilogy, maybe, because for me, the best part of this entire movie is the last 20 minutes.
Yes.
The rest of it you don't need. I guess with Frankenstein learning how, but the monster learning how to speak from a blind man that he stumbled across. Because here's the thing about this.
You mean Gene Hackman?
Is that who it was?
No.
Here's the thing. So at the end of the first movie, he died in the windmill, and they give you a little recap. They show Fritz again, which I miss Fritz. Fritz was a really good actor.
Mm-hmm.
They show you the monster. It was throws the rag doll off the windmill, and the windmill collapses, and so the Burgermeister stays there, and his wife, who I think is the same actress we just saw in The Invisible Man. She's got the same shrill voice and everything. She's yelling at him.
I'll say this is directed by the same guy that did The Invisible Man and original Frankenstein, James Whale. So this has a lot of repeat performance, so it's quite possible without actually researching it.
It might be. And Una O'Connor, I think that's the same lady that was the innkeeper in The Invisible. I'm pretty sure. We also have Elsa, I guess Elsa Lanchester playing Mary Shelley, but she's also playing the monster as well.
Bunch of people that's in here.
Yeah. So anyway, so the Burgermeister's wife, she's like, "Hey, don't go down there." He's like, "I have to see it. It killed our child, or killed a child. Everything. We have to go in there." And he goes down there and crawls in there, and he falls in this water pit, this basement of all the water is. It turns out that's how Frankenstein's monster survived the fire.
Yeah.
There's like an underground spring or something. And
it's yet another secret lair. I mean, again, this is one of the first movies to do it, so you can see where this has been used all the time before.
So he gets up, and the monster basically drowns him. Then crawls out. Una O'Connor, or whatever, she sees it. She screams. She's like, "Oh, the monster!" Oh, Up at this point, she's like, she was told to leave, but she's like, "I want to stay there. I want to burn him myself." She's like, she's just an over eager character actress,
Mm-hmm.
So she leaves before the monster even climbs out. Or actually, no, she's about to leave. She sees the monster and she gasps and she runs and she screams down the hill. She tells the Baron, where they believe Frankenstein is dead, because they got and they're carrying him to his wife, and she runs there. She says, the monster's alive. And she's like, "No, you're full. The guy says you're full of it. Whatever." So then, turns out that she's actually the nurse, or not the nurse, but she's like the maid or something, the housemaid for the Frankensteins.
Mm-hmm.
And Baron, Henry Frankenstein survives. He's not as dead as they thought he was, and then he ends up apparently marrying Elizabeth, putting his past behind him, only for this guy, and it's a weasel of a doctor, Dr. Pretorius, played by Ernest Thesiger. And I gotta say, I like this character. Pop it in, and he's very peculiar, but he's
Well, that's a Roman type name. You've heard of the Praetorian Guard?
I think so. Sounds familiar.
Yeah, so a lot of these references, I think, in her original story
Yeah.
in the early 1800s or whatever like that, they reach back to stuff. So we think of like her stories being made up in classical literature, but she's reaching for old classic stuff here too. I mean, you think
Yeah.
about Prometheus and the alien movies and all that stuff here too. A lot of it's kind of falling similar, right?
Yeah. So anyway, so basically, he shows up there after and he wants to see him at the Frankenstein in the middle of the night, and she is even the whatever her name is, the lady, the one that screamed before. She's like Pretorius. That's a really weird name. She says like 4 or 5 times. She asks him. Eventually, he gets in there. He basically says, "Doctor, you have to help me. I know what you did. And he's another doctor that was basically barred. He's kicked out. So for being a doctor, and now he wants to be his lab partner with Frankenstein, and create another monster. He wants to create a female monster for the bride for Frankenstein. And meanwhile, Frankenstein wanders the land. He's attacked by villagers. He's strung up, and then the Burgermeister's like, "We caught him." They shackle him down in the dungeon, but then he pulls himself free from the chains because he's ungodly strong.
Mm-hmm.
Escapes, but not after killing another girl. And at this point, I don't care. I don't know if they want you to feel bad for Frankenstein's monster. I don't give a shit about him. He just keeps killing people. So why should I?
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right. And you and I sometimes disagree on the fact that I go, you got to have some character that your center is around that you like, usually in a positive way, and it don't always happen. And here,
what
it's like, well, here's the thing. They humanize him in here. I don't like that. He's supposed to be a monster.
And you know who you actually do feel more for is Henry Frankenstein, because he doesn't want to do it. He's done with that past life. He's married. Yeah. So you actually feel sorry for him, and so basically Frankenstein's monster eventually comes across, Pretorius, and then they work together, and because at this point, Frankenstein's monster has learned basic English. He's been taught by his old blind man. He was living in a hut before it until the villagers came in to burn down the hut, and he had friend. He had to leave. So he kidnaps Elizabeth, and they held her hostage, and they find a body, they get a body, and then he tells this other guy who's basically like Igor 2.0. Igor.
That's
Fritz,
Igor.
And tells him, "Hey, how about you go fetch me? I need a heart. I'm a young 18-year-old. There's always ones of an accidental death. Instead, he murders a woman. Because he wants the 10,000 shekels, whatever it is. Yeah. And even Frankenstein's he's like, where'd you get this heart from? He's like, oh yeah, accidental death. Yeah, I paid the person. Yeah, it's like, I'm like, oh man. So then Frankenstein's like, well, I'm not gonna do this unless I speak to my wife. And then we get the first telephone. I've actually done a movie back in 1933 or 35.
Mm-hmm.
So and they use that, and he communicates with his with his wife, and she's sign of life or proof of life. And then he does it. So then we get this whole cool scene, and this is, like I said, this is where the whole movie picks up for me, because you get 20 minutes worth of just them working in the castle with the electricity, the equipment stuff,
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool about these props, these are real props made for this, to make it seem like it's like there's electricity going through and humming. So that's what's cool about this. Ain't no CG crap. They actually are sparking,
Yes.
And yes. So and it's a lot different from the first one. This is like he's basically he's back at his castle again where he created the original monster, but this time he's upgraded. It's like Ghostbusters 2.0, Ghostbusters 2 when they get the new Ecto 1. And now it's all suited up now. So they do this the lightning rod. They have the 2 kites they fly, and of course, Pretorius, he doesn't want Frankenstein bothering them in the lab. So he basically gives, you want drinky? Good. And he puts like a thing to knock him out, or roofies him.
Yeah.
But of course, the monster wakes up, and he's an idiot, gets involved. and he ends up killing one of the guys who's trying to help create a monster for him.
Mm-hmm.
That's another nail in the coffin for him because I hate him. And of course, so when and that's actually that's kind of why I chose this, because once they actually this scene to the left of us,
Mm-hmm.
or this way, is because that's probably the most important scene of the whole movie, because they actually after the lightning strikes and everything, so you see the eyes open up and then you see the arms open up and then and I love it because you get, I don't know if it's every edited scene, because they were editing scenes for the first movie putting it in here.
Yep.
So but he's like, it's alive, you got Colin Clive.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm so glad that James Whale kind of like ended this the way he ended it, because so we get Ella Lanchester, because that's what he is, who's revealed to be the monster, even though they don't tell you in the credits. She's the bride of Frankenstein, and she has the hairdo and everything. They dress her up, and Frankenstein monster walks in and sees her, and then he's like, "Oh, friend," and she screams at him. And he's like, "Oh, you don't like me either. Oh, my life sucks." Oh, and he pushes Frankenstein out of the castle, and then he basically commits suicide, a mass murder suicide. He kills Pretorius, and supposedly kills him and his bride. So the monster kills her, and you see the castle really explode in a little model thing, and it implodes and it crumbles down on fire and stuff. It was really cool because he pulls his lever.
Mm-hmm.
But what's really cool about this is it's supposed to be told through the eyes of Mary Shelley, about talking about her book.
Yeah.
So these aren't even real people. These are just like they have Ella Lanchester was playing Mary Shelley, the author of Frankenstein. So it's interesting because she's playing two roles, and but like I said, this movie was a dud except for the last 20 minutes, because it went too long about the monster learning how to talk, drink wine, eat bread, and smoke cigars. It's just like, what is this?
One of the things about this film is like, obviously it's a film, so there's a visual thing to it. I think some of the pluses for this film are obviously there's just a lot of just fantastic visuals in here. I think even some of the set pieces surpass the original. The hunting scene where he's out loose and you have that waterfall, and it's a set piece, it clearly is, but the way the girl, with the sheep or whatever like that, he saves her, but then they freak out and they shoot him. So he's being hunted, and it's kind of terrifying, and I get it, I understand it. And the look of the bride of Frankenstein is tremendous. She acts great, and she tilts her head up, real monsterly like, so you can see the scars under that. This is kind of brutal. Like, wow, they actually, you understand they did it to a guy or some sub-rate animal or whatever like that, like you see in here, but to do it to a woman, you're like, man, this is kind of sick. And you're right. Frankenstein, the guy himself, is basically like, I'm over it, bro. I don't want to get roped in this, but once you get in, you can't get out. And
right.
I thought, okay, I get it. So the plot's a little flimsy to me, and I don't mind it, because obviously the majority of the film, the good 60 minutes of it or so, are what you say. It's Frankenstein going through, and people don't like him. You could say he's dopey, he's ugly. What I really honestly do not like about what they did here is, because it kind of ruins it from the first film, is they basically give him a little bit of a conscience in that he's got he might be a mentally retarded in terms of intellectually, his capacity or like that, like he's a kid, like 8 or something like that. He can get trained a little bit like a dog. The scary thing about the first movie is you didn't think he was a predator, you didn't know what was going to happen, and he moved around like a lunkhead, right? But he was big and powerful, and you better not get close to him. Here he looks great, he really does, but he moves like a human. And I know he doesn't do it 100%, but it's such a big difference, even though it's played by the same actor. I don't like that. And I don't like how he's moving around a lot with his mouth and all that too. It's like you've taken away the frightening aspect of what he's supposed to represent to me, and the stupidity of trying to do something like this by making him human here. Now, I like the inside joke of going, hey, what are we gonna do for a sequel? I don't know. Let's get him a chick. The more the merrier. Well, so what's funny to me is at the end, once they finally get to it, and they create this perfect woman for him and all that, she's like, yeah, they dig all these parts of a woman, good, bad, or otherwise, but I'm still like a woman. You're ugly, bro, even though you're tall, you're unemployed. I ain't interested, because she freaks out, and he has a very adverse reaction. And frankly, he was a little pushy. So you go, again, by humanizing him, you're giving him these drives and stuff like that the little kid might have, but it's not pure, it's not real. It's kind of funny. So it's interesting to see him sit down and like try to like hold her hand and want to smooch and this and that too, like he's feeling the call of the wild. But again, it humanizes it. So to me, watching the film, I'm like, wow, it's a better film visually, I think, than the first film. I don't think that's debatable.
You know what it reminded me of? Like they're trying to do the monsters.
But see, again, it all comes from here, though, right?
Yeah, it does.
So that's the thing. Yeah.
And it's just like he says, like Frankenstein's, he hates spies as he hates being alive because everybody hates him. Like, bro, you murder people. Well, of course they're gonna hate you, call you a monster and stuff, go after you. So his whole life he's like, life is pain. Oh, me want to die.
I get it, and I don't have a problem with it. But at the end of the day, it's like, yeah, we know it. What are you going to do to make it interesting? And again, we're talking 100 years ago, just about. So it's a little different because, to your point, you had mentioned in the last one with Frankenstein that between that film and this film, they had the Hays Code or whatever it was. So they had to check certain things, can only do certain things in films. That was a newer type of thing. So I don't mind that. It's just I look at it and I go, it's not really scary to me. It's not really intense. It's a nice visual watch. But there's nothing threatening about it at all.
And so the other Pretorius, basically has this thing where he can create life. He has these little dolls, things he created out. He's discovered how to create life. So he has these glass little things and he has these little people in there he created. First, I thought he shrunk them down, but no, he found somehow to create life. So he's created little people, the kings and queens and all and stuff. And there's this ballerina, and just like I just thought it was so weird.
Well, let me ask you this: there's a scene in here where he gets strung up, basically like Christ, like on a cross, kind of like thing.
Yeah.
I think whether that's intentional or not, it's completely obvious. So to me, I go, well, it's obvious. That's what they tried doing.
Well,
I don't know that I put a lot of religious viewpoints into it when we talked about the first one, bringing something dead to life and how that could be evil and that's man's folly. I looked at it simply as the universe doesn't want you to do that. But here it felt like they did a bit more of I don't know if you want to call it like whitewashing of Christian faith, because they're showing that and they're showing some people who have a Christian faith may say, well, a man must have a bride if he's an adult in the eyes of God. And so that's the whole point. They're making the second one and she gets rejected. It's like, are they spoofing it? I don't know that they're really trying to do it, but I mean, the visual is just so obvious. You can't ignore it. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So apparently the director's cut for this movie, it was 87 minutes long. The producer, Carl Laemmle Jr., posed a number of cuts obtained on the director's excess. Prologue was cut, making it difficult to understand the present dialogue, and the body count was reduced from 21 to 10. 2 love scenes between the couple and a toy representing the monster and a child have been deleted. This amount of 12-minute footage has subsequently been lost, making it possible to reconstruct the initial idea by James Whale.
Wow. it's so I think maybe that's why film, but it's I don't know, it seems like people love this film more than the first one.
Yeah. And honestly, if we because sad that the director's cut is lost, because I probably would have made the film a lot better, or who knows. But it's like I hate being denied. Like, okay, because now that's the thing about one of these movies now today is like, remember we used to have like the unrated version of movies. For a while, they never released the director's cut. It's whatever you got in the 80s is what you got. It wasn't until the 2000s I noticed all of a sudden there's a director's cut. And stuff. Late 90s, early 2000s. So it'd be interesting to see everything they cut out and how it fits together, because what I described, it's just like maybe that would make the monster seem less annoying. But overall, though, like I said, I hope that the Frankenstein's monsters, I guess they do survive. There's Son of Frankenstein. It's another spinoff and stuff, but this is the last one for for James Whale, I think, directing, and it's also the last Colin Clive because he died 2 years later.
Right. Yeah, you mentioned about his intense lifestyle earlier.
Alcoholism. They were going to basically replace him, but James Whale said no. He's the only one he can do the maniacal like laughter craziness. So but yeah, that's all. That's my final thoughts. Is that the first movie's better. If you're gonna watch this and you like me, you don't care about the monster, you just love the territory. That's the last 20 minutes of the movie, and that's probably the best part, where it has the bride of Frankenstein, because now we have two brides in this movie: bride of Frankenstein's monster and the bride of Frankenstein.
And it's funny because again, I go to the Christian allegory of man and wife, and some people would argue that because he's dead, he doesn't have function downstairs, and so him and the hermit might be a little too friendly, and maybe that's why the bride rejects him and all that later. And I've heard all these theories over there, and as a kid you don't think of those things, but as an adult you go, well, adults are making decisions to depict this a certain way, and it's nothing but evil guys with guns shooting them and killing them, even though he tries to do good things and right stuff. And the whole humanizing thing to it, I think, fails. I know a lot of people laud that and think it's clever and it's smart, but I think it takes away from the idea that the whole original aspect of Frankenstein is don't screw around with Mother Nature, right? And I think you're right. It's a totally different film, the first one, and I agree. The first one's the best.
Yeah.
This is a great film, and visually it's quite stunning. It
one last thing before we go, I just want to mention that the brain inside the actual Frankenstein's bride here is a artificial created brain. So that makes her scarier, because I think I would think she might be smarter, more deadlier than the monster.
No, she just acts like a typical woman. And Frankenstein, let's be honest, you didn't deserve her.
Because when you saw the way she looked at Victor, almost like she was kind of in love a little bit.
Exactly. Come here, Daddy. I don't want this meat over here.
Anyway, we just ask if you guys could leave us know what you thought of the movie down below. Do you agree? Do you think that Frankenstein is better than the Bride of Frankenstein? They both have the same rating on IMDb, but Frankenstein, the original one, is a higher higher amount of people voting, where the other one has hardly anybody voting for the second.
That's interesting.
Rating it. So anyway, so that's it for this, and happy Halloween, guys.
Yeah, take care. Good night now.
Bye.